Hello and welcome to the stimulus package update on a Saturday. I'm going to get through this as quickly as possible. That way you guys can get the information you need and get right back to your weekend. Today we have news with the Paycheck Protection Program, both in funding and more public companies who have received funding. I have some news on that. We have information on a second stimulus package known as Patriot Pay, and I'm going to cover the details on that. And I answer a couple more of your questions at the end. And before I get into it, if you guys wouldn't mind, just click that like button because it helps the YouTube algorithm out. It helps me out. It'll spread this video to a wider audience. And let's get right into it. In Paycheck Protection news, as of today, May 2nd, 10.4% of small businesses have received funding through the Paycheck Protection Program. This is up from 10.3% yesterday. It's been a bit of a disappointing week, so I'm not really going to dwell on this because there's not really much news there. Moving on to the public companies who have received this funding. According to research performed by the Washington Post, publicly traded companies have received more than $1 billion in funds from the Paycheck Protection Program in the first round. So more and more companies are being revealed that they have received funding from this. The total number of public companies who have received funding is now over 300. I made a video on this about a week ago and it was at 75, so the number just keeps going up. Over $125 million of that $1 billion has been returned, but that's still $875 million that these public companies have not returned. Most of these companies are public-facing companies, the ones who have returned money and they feel the pressure to return money. The ones who haven't returned money, as far as what I can tell, they're more like business-to-business type companies that people haven't heard the names of, but are ultimately huge and are taking money from small businesses. The Washington Post stated that 43 of the companies that had received funding have more than 500 employees, which, as you know, was a major stipulation in that. And the Small Business Administration has actually refused to release the names of any companies who have received this funding, despite the fact that in the past it has been public information on who receives these loans from the Small Business Administration. So this side is the frustrating part for me. I feel like just release the names and let the public decide who deserves these funds and who doesn't, especially when you've done it in the past. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Moving on to EIDL news, as of today, May 2nd, according to COVIDLoanTracker.com, 13.1% of small businesses who have applied for the EIDL grant program have received funding. This is up from 13% just yesterday. Again, there's not a whole lot to report here. It's a little bit disappointing. I'm going to be looking forward to see what exactly the numbers are at next week, because I thought this week there'd be some huge increases, but unfortunately there weren't. So I'm not going to dwell on this very long either. I'm going to get right into the next second proposed stimulus package. Senator Mitt Romney proposed a stimulus package known as Patriot Pay. Basically what this is, all essential workers who are currently working for the months of May, June, and July would receive an additional $12 an hour on top of their normal wage, which amounts to about $1,920 per month in additional pay. It would go to basically most people who are working, but including like healthcare workers, grocery store workers, tons of people would receive this basically as like a, hey, thank you for risking your well-being for the well-being of the country, which makes sense to me. So 1/4 of this would be paid directly from employers. 3/4 of it would be paid back to employers through a payroll tax credit. This program came out in the wake of a lot of people being upset about the fact that unemployment was receiving so much extra in funding while people who were still working and risking themselves were not receiving additional pay. I'm in the camp that I think that the additional unemployment benefits are good and additional pay for workers who are currently working is good as well. With unemployment levels at what they are right now, I think it's necessary to make sure that both of these groups are receiving some form of benefit just in order to get through this absolute chaos. The only issue I'm seeing with this is how it is to be paid. So it's requiring employers to pay employees the additional amount. However, the issue is cash flows of business are already hurting so much to then require employers to pay, anywhere from 50 to 80% more in pay. A quarter of that they have to pay directly. So what is that, $3 an hour of that you're going to have to pay directly. However, they pay the full amount and then 75% of it gets paid back via payroll tax credit. So, I mean, I know with my business, if I had to pay an additional 50 to 80% in wages, it'd be really hard to survive right now, and I'm sure that's the case for pretty much every small business. So that's the issue that I see with that. I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think it's a good idea to go with this stimulus versus the other stimulus packages that we've covered before in this channel? I'd be curious to see what exactly your thoughts on it. That cash flow risk seems to be pretty detrimental to me, but I like the idea of everyone receiving extra pay who are customer facing and risking themselves. So on to one question from you guys. Mike Olson asks, is the EIDL advance taxed? So I haven't seen official guidance on this, but I believe looking at the tax code, it's safe to assume that the EIDL will be treated basically the same way as the Paycheck Protection Program is on the forgivable end, so the funds that are able to be received and then forgiven. How this works is the funds you receive are not going to be taxed income-wise. However, anything they're spent on, those items, the expenses that they're spent on, will not be deductible from taxes. Meaning, if you spend $10,000 on some kind of expense, that will be looked at as profit at the end of the year. So there won't be that double tax benefit on the EIDL grant. So that's all I have for today. Try to go through this as quickly as possible. Until next time, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.